It was not until today that I learned that preserving cabbage is very easy. I learned this little trick to keep cabbage fresh for half a year without spoiling. It is really practical. In fact, many people are not clear about how to preserve cabbage. Most of them are left on the ground randomly. Some are piled up in a mess, which can easily cause the cabbage to spoil and rot. Some people put cabbage in the refrigerator because they think this can prolong the freshness of cabbage, but the refrigerator can accelerate the rotting process of cabbage. Today, I will share with you 3 tips to keep cabbage fresh for half a year. Please note that not all types of cabbage are suitable for long-term storage. For long-term storage of cabbage, remember to choose cabbage with green leaves. If yellow-leafed cabbage is not suitable for long-term storage, because when comparing yellow cabbage with green cabbage, the moisture inside the yellow cabbage is very rich and will easily spoil during storage. Green cabbage has less moisture inside, so it is more suitable for long-term storage. First method. When you buy cabbage home, we must first remove the rotten surface of the cabbage. Pick out all the fallen leaves and yellow leaves, because these parts belong to the damaged parts of the cabbage. If you continue to store it, the cabbage will be infected, and the whole cabbage will be spoiled. Next, we use a tool to cut a piece at the base. Choose a sharp and clean knife to determine the location of the hole. Carefully insert the knife into the base and gradually dig a hole of the appropriate size by rotating or cutting. Be careful not to damage too much cabbage tissue. After digging the hole, check if the edges of the hole are neat. If there are any irregularities, you can use a knife to cut them off. Next, prepare some water. Use a paper towel with good toughness. We will use the paper towel soaked in water. Then fold it into small pieces and stuff them into the hole you just made. This can continuously provide moisture to the cabbage roots, slow down the process of cabbage wilting and drying due to water loss, and maintain the freshness, flavor, and crisp texture of the cabbage. In addition, it helps maintain the physiological activity of the cabbage so that it can maintain a certain vitality during storage and prolong the edible period. At the same time, providing appropriate water can prevent the roots from drying out and necrosis due to excessive water shortage, thus reducing the risk of root rot. Then, we wrap it with plastic wrap. Squeezing the air inside out can prevent the water inside the cabbage from evaporating out to a certain extent and maintain the moisture of the cabbage. Using plastic wrap makes the cabbage less dry during storage and prevents external contamination. It can effectively prevent dust, bacteria, and other pollutants from contacting the cabbage, reducing the risk of cabbage contamination and spoilage. This will form a relatively stable gas environment around the cabbage, slowing down the respiration and oxidation process, helping to maintain the quality and nutritional content of the cabbage. Then we can store it in a cool place, trying not to let the sunlight shine directly on it to ensure coolness and ventilation. Cabbage can be stored for a long time. If you use this method, you do not need to put the cabbage in the refrigerator. Because the refrigerator space at home is very limited, you do not have to worry about not having a place to store cabbage. When it is cold, windy, snowy, and rainy, or when the weather is hot and you do not want to go out, we can use a piece of cabbage at home to cook hot pot, make dumplings, or cook stew. The second method is to use white wine and salt. Carefully look for any insects or pests, or see if there are any rotten spots. If there is anything inedible, throw it away. Where are you from? Please leave a comment to let me know. It's nice to know that we see each other all over the world. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you can subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. It's great to see your support. Then we process the roots. Use a knife to cut it flat. The roots of cabbage are relatively loose, and water is easily released through the roots. Peeling the roots can reduce the amount of water loss to a certain extent and prolong the storage time of cabbage after peeling the roots. In this way, the cabbage is also easier to place and store neatly, saving space. In short, peeling the roots of cabbage helps to preserve the cabbage better and maintain better quality and flavor for a longer period of time. Next, we prepare some high-concentration white wine and add a little salt. Then, we stir well and dissolve the salt. Stir for a while to completely dissolve the salt. Now, we prepare a brush and apply the mixture to the cabbage roots. Why use salt and alcohol when preserving cabbage? First is sterilization. Salt has a certain bactericidal effect. High concentration alcohol can also kill some bacteria and fungi. Applying it to the roots can reduce the growth of bacteria and fungi and reduce the possibility of root rot. Second is to limit water loss. To a certain extent, table salt can absorb water from the root surface, reduce evaporation and water loss, help maintain the water retention and moisture of cabbage, and prolong its freshness. Third is to form a protective film. The mixture of white wine and table salt forms a protective film on the roots, which can block the outside air and microorganisms to reduce the impact of external factors on the roots, thereby extending the storage time of cabbage. Finally, we use plastic wrap to wrap the cabbage tightly. The principle and method of wrapping with plastic wrap are the same as the first method. This way, the cabbage can stay fresh for several months or even half a year. The third method is the carton storage method. For those of you who live in buildings and want to store a lot of cabbage, it is really a big problem. I share with you a good method. After knowing this method, you no longer have to worry about not having a place to store cabbage at home. You no longer have to envy the large sellers in the countryside, no matter what kind of cabbage you're storing. Before storing cabbage, it is best to dry it first. When drying cabbage, do not dry it directly in the sun, but leave it in a ventilated place and let it dry for a few days. Because the cabbage is in the process of storage, it will be squeezed. If the surface is not kept dry, the cabbage will rot due to being squeezed for a long time. Therefore, when storing cabbage, make sure the outer layer of the cabbage is dry and do not let the cabbage stay moist. Temperature control during storage is also very important. Whether the temperature is too high or too low, the cabbage will be damaged during storage. You must create a stable temperature environment for it, controlling it at 3 to 8 degrees Celsius. Only then can we put the cabbage in the box and arrange it neatly in the box. Leaving the cabbage upright can prevent the cabbage from being pressed together, reducing the pressure on the leaves and stems of the vegetable, and reducing damage and rot due to being pressed. Standing upright also helps air circulate around the cabbage so that all parts of the cabbage can be exposed to fresh air. Reduce the formation of a humid and stuffy environment, thereby reducing the risk of rotting. Thirdly, it is easier to observe when placed upright because it is easy to observe the general condition of the cabbage. It can promptly detect diseased spots or parts that begin to rot for timely treatment. If the weather is too cold where you live, just put the cabbage in a cardboard box and cover it with a towel or clothes to prevent the cabbage from freezing. Then close the box and store it. This creates a storage environment for the cabbage in a moderately humid and well-ventilated environment. The cardboard box has certain insulation properties and can buffer rapid changes in outside temperature to a certain extent, providing a relatively stable temperature environment for the cabbage. The cardboard box can absorb some of the water vapor, which helps keep the environment around the cabbage relatively dry and reduces the possibility of rotting. So if you live in a building and want to store a large amount of cabbage, this method should be your first choice. The video ends here. If you have any comments, please leave a comment below. If you find the video interesting, please give me a like. Don't forget to share it with your relatives and friends. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Goodbye. See you in the next video.